Tired of your regular old shield? Loving dual-wielding weapons but wanting to knock out the monster? Like the sound of giving a monster a taste of its own medicine? Meet the Great Shield, the weapon of the future made from the ideas of the past. A splitting shield that takes on a form akin to blunt dual blades, or for just a moment come together for the single most powerful god in the game with explosions to make any Switch X user jealous.
Welcome, one and all, to a video of a somewhat different type to what we normally do here, but one that I am excited as hell to bring you nonetheless. Do you guys spend your sleepless hours of the night just laying in bed wondering what new weapons could be cool if added to Monster Hunter? I hope so, because if you don't, then I might just be crazy!
Does that make me crazy?
Today, I bring to you my greatest shield design, the Great Shield. Now, bear with me for a little bit, as this one has some meat on its bones. The best way to sell you on this weapon is the best way to sell someone on any weapon. How is bow? Well, let me tell you about
The Dragon Piercer.
how is Charge Blade? Well, let me tell you about
Super Amped Element Discharge.
how is the Great Shield? Well, let me tell you about
Element Reflect.
using an ability which will later be explained, but for now simply referred to as Parry. When a monster uses an elemental or status attack, you will have the option to reflect that element or status right back at it. That sound cool? Sweet. Let me explain how you get there. Picture a massive shield. Like this? No. Bigger. Like this? No. Bigger. This? Yes! Now you've got it! In its regular weapon mode, the Great Shield is sort of like slower, blunt dual blades. You see, the way this weapon becomes a shield is by connecting the two halves. Think sort of like if Captain America in Infinity War could put his arms together like this shitty paint drawing and make one really big shield. First thing to really go into detail on, as it is a massive off shield, is of course the guard function. You've all seen it before, either on weapons that have shields as a part of them, or when trying to somehow, in some ungodly way, make your ridiculously sized
Rocket-powered great sword!
pretend to be a shield and steal other people's thunder. Hey! But how many guard functions have had you turn your entire weapon into an unsurmountable defense?
Rocket-powered!
Okay, Great Sword, I get it. You tried your best. Stick both halves, hereafter referred to as good shields, together, and you get yourself the true form of the Great Shield. For a moment after pressing down the guard button, you will activate a form of power block. It will effectively have a base guard 5 and guard up skill for the moment that it works. This is the parry effect. And for the timing, think of something like dual blades activating demon mode. Like this! Yes, exactly like that. This is going to be where the big endgame skill cap comes from for this weapon. If you can nail it, then you have a super strong guard without the need for guard skills. The balance between risk and reward is a major theme for this weapon. If you risk only going for timed guards, then you get the freedom and reward of not having to bring guard skills to have a good guard. After this moment of parry, you have just a regular shield guard, affected by guard up and your guard boost skills normally, and this can be used as any regular shield in the game can, except that you can't move. Remember, this thing is fucking huge and absolutely unwieldy. Is there any benefit to the parry mechanic outside of the advanced defense? Well, yes. In fact, I believe it may just be the coolest part of this weapon. If you manage to pull off the parry on an elemental or status attack, you will get some fantastic and diverse benefits. First thing to mention is that the strength of the attack will determine the strength of the benefit. For example, if you parry a little dinky Rathian lightly head poking you while she has some stinky fire breath, you ain't getting much. But if you parry a full-on Teostra Supernova, you will essentially be a killing machine. Again, risk-reward, massive part of this weapon. A big part of weapons in Monster Hunter World is that one moment of, oh, yes, I just did that. Look at that. That was me. And this weapon has that in spades. So, you just parried a supernova. What happens now? Well, congratulations, you skilled piece of shit. You just activated a neat little QuickTime event. For a moment after the parry, you will do a sort of jump forward and enter a super armor state. Sort of like a great sword shoulder bash. Hi, Future Dino here. I just realized that I said shoulder bash here instead of shoulder bash, but I think that shoulder bash sounds absolutely hilarious, so that's staying in. Except with your full shield in front of you. From this position, you can either take the big boom route and press triangle or circle while still holding guard, and a massive beam of light will pop out the front of your shield like a shotgun blast, returning the element or status straight back at its original creator. Again, remember the power of this is based on the power of the attack absorbed, but I can only imagine it looking and feeling fantastic to pull off. Sure. A lot of monsters are resistant to the element that they project, but I'm sure the attack's damage can be balanced around that, right? After pulling off this move, steam will be pouring out the back of the weapon to represent a sort of cooldown. Obviously, I'm not a math guy or a developer, so I can't pull a balanced number out of my ass, but for the sake of having a solid number to talk about for the rest of this, let's go with 30 seconds. Oh man, that sounds like an awesome move, right? You get to parry and then make a f***ing giant boom that will send a monster on its ass. Well, hold your horses, because you have another option. Let's rewind the tapes a minute. Remember, in that moment when you parry an attack? Yeah? Remember how you sort of do a jump forward with your super armor state? Yeah? Well, if instead of pressing triangle or circle while holding your guard, you just sort of let your guard down, for lack of a better descriptive term, and drop your shield back into the two halves, the good shields, your weapons will become elementally or
Kubakaki's
charged with whatever element or status you parried to a numerical extent based on the power of the ability you parried. Again, Little Fire Burp is weak, Big Teo Nova is powerful. This decision has two main benefits. 1. You have increased resistance to the element you parried for the duration of the effect. 2. You gain elemental or status damage for the duration of the effect. What will we call it? We call this the energized state. Why? Because it sounds f***ing cool. That's why. How long does it last? Surprisingly, it lasts 30 seconds, or whatever the equivalent will be to the cooldown of the big boom. Again, I'm not a developer, so I can't say what is balanced, but the idea here is that there has to be a cooldown. For the big boom, that is represented by the steam leak. For the energized state, this is represented by the power itself. This will be shown in the top left corner. A little timer that ticks down over time, sort of like the longsword spirit gauge if you don't level it up, with the picture of the element used beside it. The decreasing bar will either be lit up if energized, or grayed out if cooling down from the big boom. While the cooldown will not stop you from parrying for guard bonuses, or just generally guarding for guarding's sake, you will not be able to either launch another big boom or re-energize your weapons until the 30 seconds is up. Jesus H. Christ, this weapon sounds absolutely magnificent! How far have you actually thought this through? Well, if you really want to know, I've thought all the way down to the basic attacks. In general combat, you will, to put it bluntly, be smacking the monster in the face. For me, this weapon needs to be fantastic at two specific things: elemental damage and knocking that motherfucker out. So the basic triangle combo will be pretty simple. Low risk, low reward. A few punches, forearms, or even elbow strikes, as the weapons are essentially arm-long brass knuckles, multiple smaller ticks of damage per button press to make the elements all fine and dandy, and the circle attacks will actually be more risky, but for conversely, way more reward. Each circle attack will have a significantly longer animation than the triangle attacks, which will also root you on the spot, but will sort of martial artsly, which is hilarious to say, by the way, multi-punch the monster, and it will make the maximum use out of whatever element or status you have brought on the hunt, or in fact, whichever element or status you have energized yourself with. Next up, surprise surprise, is the slide attack. No doubt about it. No way you aren't already picturing it. I know it's in your head. I know it's in there.
I can read your mind.
The slide attack will have you ride the shield down the slope and sort of lodge it in the monster, only to kick it off the monster with your legs to pull it back out. Super cool. Super simple. Super Legolas. It's really cool, okay? Now, don't get too disappointed just yet if you like jumping off of things more than you like sliding. because I have thought of you too. You jumped off a wall, you get to put the Great Shield together in front of you and slam that down from above into whatever may lay beneath you, absolutely crushing whatever lies in your wake. Now that you've heard all the parts separately, let's talk about a bit more of the specifics and the way that the mechanics interact with each other. For switching to guard mode, I'd like you to think of it a bit like Switch Axe. If you press the guard button during a combo, the motion to enter the guard and parry section will be almost seamless, super smooth and super quick. Whereas if you just do it from a standing position, it will take a bit longer as a way to encourage a slightly more aggressive playstyle. One little hidden jewel is that you could bring a non-elemental version of this weapon with the elementless skill and both be elementless and elemented if you charge your weapon. As while your weapons are elementally charged, they aren't element weapons, they just happen to have element coming off of them. It's sort of a bonus effect, not part of the weapon itself. Now consider this, even more interesting, is if you bring a mix set that has both the crit element set bonus and elementless in it, designed specifically for hunting a monster like Teostra or Kirin, where you can keep up the elemental charge pretty reliably for most of the fight, then you will have a really awesome weapon designed specifically for those monsters. It may not be as strong on other monsters, but all weapons have their strong fights and their weak fights. That's how the game works. This weapon would sit in a super interesting spot, sort of between dual blades and greatsword in terms of speed, but with a blunt damage output capable of knocking out a monster and a sweet parry for defensive style and potency. Barrier to entry? Fairly low. The parry isn't necessary in order to use the weapon effectively. It is just a sweet bonus to both defense and occasionally offense, depending on the fight. Learning to do effective damage with this weapon will probably be as simple as understanding elements, positioning for the head, and just knowing what times you can press circle instead of triangle, and what to block. Skill cap? High. Hello. No, you idiot, not that high. Parrying will be faster than dodging, which means that if you parry an attack, you will be back on the monster faster than if you dodge away. Parrying will be the skill cap for this weapon, and parrying an element gives you great offensive bonuses on top of that. If you can keep your bonuses up consistently and you can parry most attacks that come at you, you will do wonderful damage and wonderful things with this weapon. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I am absolutely ecstatic about this weapon. It is my baby and I love it. And after listening to me ramble on about it for as long as I have, I hope you love it too. And I hope you want it to come into the game as much as I have. But, like all things in life, if you love something, you should let it go. Unless it loves you back, which this probably doesn't because it's an inanimate object. But as such, I will now let go of this video. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.